What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Swirly Games, and in today's video we are going to do the seemingly impossible task, once I started looking into it, of a definitive ranking of every Team Affinity division at a time. So basically I'm going to look at all 6 divisions, look at the 5 different Team Affinity rewards, one for each team you can select, and I'm going to rank them 1 through 5 of who I personally would pick, basically what order I'm going to pick these guys in each Team Affinity program as I unlock the packs. So before we get started on this one, please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments if I'm an asshole. Am I an idiot? Am I picking the wrong cards? Do I not know what the fuck I'm talking about? Which is super likely. And let me know who you guys are most looking forward to picking in your Team Affinity choice packs. Alright, starting us off, we're going to go with the AL East, and as much as it pains me to say this, it shows how good these cards are. I unfortunately think the worst card in the AL East is Bo Bichette. I love Bo Bichette in real life. His stats aren't terrible. Hopefully they fixed his swing from last year, because his swing was a little rough and he just didn't play very well. But he's honestly this low because of another shortstop in his own division is just slightly better for what you want. But he's not really slow, but he's not super fast. Silver fielding at shortstop is not really the best, but I mean, it'll do. And his hitting stats are decent, but I just think number 4 has a little bit better hitting stats, and that's why ultimately Bo Bichette's going to be our number 5 choice in this pack. The shortstop who beat him, Xander Bogaerts. His fielding's bad, 62 fielding, not great. So you're only going to want to play him at short, if anywhere. That is one difference between him and Bo. He's 1 point faster in speed, and his hitting stats are just a little bit better, and his swing's not quite as terrible. He's got more contact, and I think more power against both sides. He's just a slightly better hitting, and it's not like Bo's defense is so much to talk about that Xander having lower defense is that much of a difference. So because of that, Xander Bogaerts is going to be my number 4, but again, neither one not super great. So of the 3 shortstops in this division that have Team Affinity card, which is insane, they picked 3 different shortstops, I'm actually going with Willy Adames. He's got balanced hitting, 80 plus power, which will do, 96 contact versus right, I think is the highest individual hitting stat of the 3 shortstops so far. 97 arm at short is super, super important. He's the fastest and has the best defense. So overall, I think Willy Adames is a much more well-rounded shortstop than the other 2. And he's actually got some pop as well. So I'm definitely taking Willy Adames as the best of the shortstop, but ultimately the 3rd best card in the AL East. Surprising me, Anthony Santander is going to be my number 2 pick in the AL East. So you already know who number 1 is. But this card is actually pretty good. He's not the fastest center field in the world. Ideally, you'd want a little bit more than 59. But 88 fielding. Oh, he's a right fielder. I looked up at secondary. So 59 speed in right field actually isn't even as bad. The arm is bad in right field, though, unfortunately. So you probably actually want to play him in center. You still have a gold shield in center. But a switch hitter with around 80 and 90 power versus both sides and really good vision, like, this is a great hitting card and decent fielding in the outfield. So I wish he was a little faster. I wish he had a better arm, but I definitely think he's the number 2 card in the AL East. Which leaves, probably to no surprise by anybody else, the number 1 card in the AL East, I think, is Giancarlo Stanton. In left field, his speed is actually okay. He's got a good arm in left. He'll have a silver shield in left, and everyone loves Giancarlo's swings, man. He's low vision, but 95 power versus right, 106 power versus left. He's going to hit missiles for you to start the season off. So my first AL East selection is going to be Giancarlo Stanton from the New York Yankees. Next, we're going to move on to the AL Central, and for my money, this is up there with probably the NL West. I think the AL Central is the best crop of all of these guys. The fact that Jose Berrios is the number 5 choice here probably says a lot about that. So he's got 2 fastballs, a changeup, and a slurve. Okay control, nothing too amazing on any of them, but his break on his slurve is nasty. But it's honestly kind of by default. He's got good stats and good pitches, but the rest of the cards are just so good that unfortunately Jose Berrios is going to be the last one of these I'm going to take. Now I know what you're thinking. Alex, you're a huge Indians fan. How is Franmil Reyes number 4? Because I'm not biased, okay? Is he going to be the first one I actually pick? You're damn right he is. I'm picking Franmil first. But if I'm looking objectively at this is not a bad card. I mean, right field, he's slow as shit. He's got bad fielding, but he is a big power bat off your bench, most likely. It's a pretty good card. I mean, 106 power versus right, he's always going to play, especially this early in the year. He's going to be a BR legend with that power. But I've got to be objective. Outfielders are this slow with this bad fielding. Ultimately, I don't really like having in my lineup for very long. If he had a first base secondary, it would maybe bump him up a little bit in my eyes. But again, I'm an idiot. I'm a homer. I'm picking him first. but you should probably pick him fourth. That's my opinion. Another division with multiple shortstop. We have 2 shortstops in the AL Central, and my least favorite of the 2 is going to be Tim Anderson. I personally don't really do well with Tim Anderson cards. I like a little bit better fielding at shortstop, but 84 arm will be okay with his 84 speed. That part's fine. He crushes lefties. 114 contact versus lefties is kind of insane, but I wish he was a little bit better versus righties. That might bump him up a little bit. But again, this division is loaded. This is a great card. I wouldn't fault you for picking this one, but I personally, he's going to be right in the middle of the pack at 3 for me. The second spot, Salvador Perez. One of my favorite catchers to use in the game. He's probably my favorite swing of any catcher. Slow as hell. You'll deal with that at catcher. Decent fielding. His, whatever card they have for him, like if it's an MVP, not MVP, Silver Slugger, a Signature, a Prime, whatever they do, he'll have much better fielding later in the year. But for now, those 85 and 90 powers with 80 vision, that will play at catcher. Mike Piazza is better than him, but until you get your first boss, Salvador Perez, or if you like Valenzuela, you want to try him out or want to pick Kenny instead, Salvador will be just fine behind the plate for a long time. He's my number 2 pick. And number 1, maybe my favorite, one of my favorite of these cards of any 42 series of the live series Team Affinity ones. I cannot believe how good this Nico Goodrum card is. This is unbelievable. Shortstop, 92 fielding, so he's got diamond at short. But if you look at his secondaries, he can play literally everywhere but catch. You can put him anywhere on the field, and he's going to give you 80 speed and gold fielding. That is incredible. Plus, he's a switch hitter with 115 contact versus lefties. So he's got the high contact versus lefties, which isn't quite as valuable, but you'll take that 115. And of his power splits, he's got more power versus righties, which is what you'd want more than lefties anyways. So 63 contact sucks, but he's got 61 vision. Also not super great, so he's going to have a small PCI against righties, but 82 power. This guy could be on your bench for a very long time as a decent speed and defensive sub for any given situation. It's unbelievable how good this Nico Goodrum. So he's going to be my number 2 pick because I'm an idiot. I'm picking Fran Mill first. But this Nico Goodrum might be my favorite Team Affinity card of any of them. But definitely the biggest surprise for sure. All right, so now we are off to the AL West, the final American League division. This one was interesting. Jesus Luzardo, I thought was going to be something I would love to have. And ultimately, he is a good guard, but I think I'm going to have to give him the bottom spot. His hits in Ks per 9 are okay, not amazing. 45 fielding on the mound doesn't really matter. But his pitch speeds, his control is just so bad. He's got great break, but if you can control him, he'll be okay. This is probably my most blasphemous choice. I just like the other cards in the division more. It has a very clear winner, which you guys already know who he is. But I think just almost by default, I'm going to have to put him at the bottom. Maybe he could be the number 4 spot after who we look at there. Might be able to pass him, but I don't feel great about it. This is the least. This is probably the best of the number 5s we've seen. This is better than Jose Berrios and better than, who was the AL East? Better than Bo Bichette for sure, unfortunately. But I'm going to have to put Jesus at the bottom. Number 4, this might be where my personal preference is coming into play. I love using David Fletcher cards. I was a big fan of his during showdowns last year. He's a great silver tier card to get. Second base with 99 fielding. Like, he's going to be a diamond fielder no matter where you put him in the infield outside of first base. You like a little bit of a faster guy there, but he's got really great contact versus both sides and super high vision with great defense. I'm a sucker for cards like this. High contact, great fielding. I love that. It's always going to play in Diamond Dynasty, especially if fielding actually works this year. But, I mean, that 49 power versus both sides is a huge problem as far as like competitive balance goes. Like you're just going to want higher power than that. But I personally love this card. But again, not biased. He's going to be the number 4 for me. Yordan Alvarez. This is where I think 3 and 2 was a very close decision for me. I love Yordan Alvarez. His swing plays so well. He has so much pop, especially with that 103 and 95 on his powers. But the fact of the matter is, 59 fielding is horrifically bad. 42 speed, so he's not going to. He's got 59 fielding. His reaction is only 63, so he's going to get a bad jump. Not able to recover very well because he's only got 42 speed. Absolute liability in the outfield. Battle Royale, great card to pick. You can get away with some defense issues for a big power bat like that in a short game. But if nothing else, if you've got a really loaded outfield, this is a really good pinch hitting option. Yordan swing, super great. He's my number 3. Kyle Lewis. Now, I ended up giving it to Kyle because his power is just lower than Yordan, and he's got much better speed and much better fielding in the outfield, basically. Very low vision, but honestly, it's not a huge deal. If you can square it up, this ball's going to fly. So Kyle Lewis is basically a right-handed Yordan slightly less power, but much better. He's actually usable in the field. He's not going to be a liability out there. He's going to be my number 2. And surprising absolutely no one, I bet this is going to be the number 1. This is going to be the highest percentage of any of the 6 Team Affinity programs. Which cards picked first? Joey Gallo, without a doubt. Could play a bunch of different positions. His fielding is crazy now. 95 fielding. He'll be a diamond anywhere he plays in the field. With an absolute cannon, great reaction, all that. 56 speed is good enough for 108, 110 powers, both sides. He's an absolute glitch. He's been a glitch for years. They had to put Joey Gallo there. The Rangers fucking suck. Who else are they going to pick for this card? It's Joey Gallo. He's one of the easiest slam dunks, number 1 picks of any of the divisions. All right, on to the NL East, and we continue with just so many shortstops. Dansby's not terrible. Pretty even hitting stats, not the worst. 85 fielding is good, 79 speed's pretty good. You would think that'd be great, but with just so many other shortstops to pick, like shortstop is just very crowded. And I think there's some other cards in this division that are actually pretty decent. I'd say the NL East is probably the most balanced without anybody being overly amazing. Like this is a pretty even Team Affinity division. None of those hitting stats are over the moon amazing. Just very average. So it's not, you wouldn't go wrong necessarily picking this, but I just think there's some more exciting options. So he's my number 5. In the number 4 spot, might be a shock to some people. I couldn't believe I was putting him at 4 myself, but I'm going with Patrick Corbin. Only maxing out at 91 speed is a problem, but the fact that he can drop it all the way down, I'm kind of blocking it there to 68 on his curveball. Huge differentials in speed, even if he doesn't have that top end speed. And he's just very consistent with his per 9s. I mean, 80s across the board, 96 stamina is not bad. 84 fielding is actually kind of surprising. He doesn't quite have the control. 76 control on his changeup is the highest. And I think if he was more accurate with that slowness, I think he'd be higher up there. But because of that, I'm going to put him at number 4. Andrew McCutchen gets the number 3 spot. I think it's ultimately his fielding that bumped him down a little bit here. I love McCutchen. He's great cards to hit with. I mean, his hitting stats are incredible. 80 power versus righties, 89 versus lefties with 86 vision. That's pretty good. 64 speed's all right in left field, but that 62 fielding and that only a 50 arm is rough. I mean, he's older now. It makes sense. You would probably want to play him in left field anyways, which is good because if you put him anywhere else, he'd have common fielding, which is even worse. But defense that bad in the outfield is a problem. He's a great bench bat, great for BR, but he's going to be number 3 for me. Kind of surprising me how great his hitting stats were. Dominic Smith, kind of a big breakout player for the Mets last year. He's my number 2. Most likely because of the secondary at first base. If he could only play the outfield, it might change my thoughts. But lefties with that high power just are so nice to use. Great hitting stats all around, pushing 100 power versus righties. Still decent against lefties. He's absolutely, think of him, ignore left field, think of him as a first baseman. He's still going to be a bronze fielder at first, which again, at first base defense, not really important. A big, slow, bulky, powerful, left-handed first baseman is usually what I end up wanting to go for. And he fits that bill very nicely. Dominic Smith, my number 2 pick in the NL East. And surprising me when I got in here, Sixto Sanchez, old Sixtos, is my number 1 pick in the NL East. This card is gross. 98 on his fastball with outlier. He's going to be hitting 100 plus on his fastball, pushing 98 on his sinker as well. This card is gross. He's got the stereotypical pitches you'd want: fastball, sinker, changeup, slider, curve. That's nice. And his control's not great. Weirdly enough, his best control's on his fastball. This is a nice card. This will be a decent, you don't usually want to pick starting pitchers in BR, but again, an outlier like this against lower tiered cards. This is a great pick. I'm excited. This might be some bias, but I just want to use a Sixto Sanchez card. I like his cards in the past, and this one's actually not terrible. Changeup off speed, or changeup primary pitch, also to go along with his 98 to 100 fastball. I like it. I'm going Sixto as my ultimate choice in the NL East. The NL Central was another very tricky one to go with. And this is, you're probably thinking, how are you going to put a guy with 114 power versus righties as your number 5? I know, I'm kind of an idiot. I don't know what I'm doing. Ultimately, I went with this because as a second baseman with no secondaries, you're stuck putting him at second base, obviously. Bad fielding. The arm won't kill you at second base, but he's a little slow. And ultimately, I just see this guy as nothing more than a bench bat. And I think there's places to play everybody else in this division all the time instead of just sticking with a bench bat this early on. Like 88 diamonds should be somebody that can play for you, and I really think he'd be better off on the bench. Great against righties. He'll help you with that opposite splits with that. As a right-handed bat, that is that good against righties. But that's another thing too. You're probably going to want to use a lefty with high power before him, so he wouldn't even be your first choice as a power bat against righties, unless you just don't have anybody else, because 114 is pretty nice. But Keston, I'm sorry, you're going to be the last one I'm taking. Jason Hayward. Now, I thought his defense would be a little bit higher when I saw that he was going to be their choice, which might have influenced me, but he's got great vision and okay stats, not the most power. And I think if he had higher defense to be a gold anywhere in the outfield, that might have bumped him up, but he's going to be a silver anywhere but right field, because that 89 arm would play in center. You would be okay putting him there, but not for a silver shield for what this card's stats are. And 55 speed's just a little too slow for me as well in the outfield. Jason Hayward, solid card, decent. If you're a Cubs fan, pick him. His swing's nice, but he's going to be number 4 for me. Luis Castillo almost was number 4. Him and Jason Hayward were close for me. But ultimately, I love using Luis Castillo cards. A circle change primary pitch is very interesting to me. Not the most control, but he's got decent control on that circle change. And dude throws hard all across the board. So, be a nice change of pace type guy. And I think this is more personal preference at this point. I just really, like I said, I loved his finest card last year. I like using Luis Castillo. I'm going with him at number 3. In the 2 spot, Ke'Bryan Hayes, or Ke'Bryan. I've never heard it said out loud. Sorry if I'm butchering that name. I'm excited for this guy. He's like the one, him and Brian Reynolds are probably, and Cole Tucker. Those 3 are like the only good things going on in Pittsburgh right now. But this card's actually pretty sick. He can only play third, no secondaries, which is interesting. But he's going to be a diamond shield at third base for you. Pretty fast and okay hitting stats. I mean, decent contact, but overall, I'm excited to use this card, and his hitting stats are balanced enough with that great fielding at third. Probably crazy he's my number 2, but honestly, he's my number 2. I don't know what to say. I'm taking him second. And number 1, Tiff's boy from Fantasy, Jack Flaherty, my number 1 pick for the NL Central. Great pitch selection. Got a lot of the classics. Knuckle curve's interesting. It's not that 12-6. It's got a little bit of a horizontal break as well. Decent control. Good enough. His changeup's pretty rough, but in the 70s for his off speeds and 85 for his fastball. And great break on that knuckle curve as well, along with his sinker. So he's got some movement on the speed with the sinker. Great knuckle curve. Control on the fastball. Just a nice, balanced, solid starting pitcher. You can't go wrong with the Jack Flaherty. I'm glad he's their choice. The Cardinals kind of loaded up this year. They could have had a lot of different options to be this card. I'm glad it's Jack Flaherty. He's my NL Central number 1 choice. All right, we are down to the NL West, our final division. And if the AL Central's, I think, the best top to bottom AL division, the NL West, I think, for sure, is the best NL division, top to bottom. This German Marquez card, Herman, not sure how it's said out loud. This card's really good, but unfortunately, he's the last one almost by default. His per nines aren't great, so PCIs are going to be a little bigger against him than you would like, but his stuff is great. 4-seam sinker, knuckle curve slider, changeup. Control's not great. That also kind of held him back a little bit. And his break's honestly not super great either. So he's one, like, if you look at his pitch speeds and his pitch selection, you'd think, oh, this guy's going to be pretty good, but his per nines aren't great. His break's not great, so his stuff's going to fall a little flat for you. He's not the worst starting pitcher card, but for the loaded NL West, he's absolutely the worst card here, unfortunately. Ketel Marte is the first in the list when you go left to right. When I looked at these stats, I was like, ooh, this is going to be pretty good, actually. You'd rather it be versus righties, but this is not a bad card. He's the 4th best in this one. Great versatility defensively. It would be nice if he had a little bit higher fielding to be gold everywhere. Pretty fast. Switch hitting is great, and unfortunately, he's just so much more of a better option versus lefties, which just doesn't come up as often. You're going to face righties more often, and his stats versus righties, at least he'll be batting left-handed, just aren't that great. And again, in a loaded division, if his fielding itself was a little bit higher, it'd be a little bit better. So for now, he's going to be my number 4. Little Yaz, Mikey Stremski is going to be my number 3 choice. His hitting stats are so much better than I thought they would be. Got so much pop, nice lefty bat. He's got decent fielding. He might only drop down to an 80 at left and center, which would barely hold on to that gold shield. But 54 arm is really bad. 63 speed's decent. You'd like a little bit faster when you're getting this nitpicky towards the top. But he's a great hitting option. And he's got that reverse splits. He's a lefty who's better against lefties. I love that. And 85 power versus righties is totally fine. So this is a great card, but again, a loaded division. He's going to be number 3 for me. Just not quite better than the other outfielder in this division. Trent Grisham. This card is disgusting. Center fielder with 96 field. The arm could be better, but 92 speed, 96 fielding in center field is, mwah, chef's kiss. You love to see that. With some pop, he's got 84 power versus righties. So much more of a defensive speed option, but 96 fielding and 92 speed are just so elite in center field that he's still got 84 power versus righties. Those three stats alone this early in the year those will absolutely play. So Trent Grisham is my number 2. This might be some bias, but I think people love this card in general. Max Muncie is my best player in the NL West, in my opinion. 197 powers. Everybody knows Max Muncie's swing. His swing is an absolute glitch. 78 fielding is all right, especially at first base, but he'll still give you a silver shield at first, second, or third in his secondary positions. The fact that Max Muncie has 59 speed always surprises me. Like he looks like a guy who'd be like in the 30s, but he's almost at 60. Max Muncie, this is gonna be a BR god right away. I would probably play him at second because there's a lot of other good hitting first basemen, but especially for a power at most likely second base where he's going to play for a lot of people, he's my number 1 NL West selection. All right, you guys, this is going to do it for this video. Kind of a long one, a lot to get through. Those are my opinions on these cards. Let me know in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, did I make bad choices? Do you agree with my choices? Who are you most looking forward to? Who's your friend Mil Reyes? Like, who's your homer that you know is not as good as what you're going to be picking him as, but you're going to pick him first anyways because you're sick. You got no other choice. It's the only way you know how to do it. Let me know who you guys are most excited for in these new revamped divisional Team Affinity programs. All right, guys, gonna do it for this one. Please like and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at Swirly Games. Follow me on Twitch at Swirly Streams. Gonna have some MLB streams along with some other games being streamed on the channel. Also, please subscribe to my other YouTube channel, Swirly Plays, where we got some Let's Plays and some non-baseball and non-sports related content over there if you're into that. And in the meantime, be safe out there. Listen to my dad, and I'll see you in the next video.